If you're saving up to buy a house to live in, stop. It could be the biggest financial mistake that you ever make. My name is Russell Leeds.
And I'm Anna Leeds.
And welcome to the Property Investors Podcast. So this week we're going to be discussing, is it better to save up to buy a home, which is what most people try and do, or are you better off not buying a home and renting where you live and using that money to invest instead? Now, this was a debate we had many times when we first got into property because you desperately wanted to buy your own home, didn't you?
Well, I think I grew up, I don't know if it's a generational thing, but that's what I grew up to believe was the right way to do it. You grow up, you get a good old 9-to-5 job, and then the ultimate goal is you buy your own house and you've kind of made it then. You've got your own home, you've got security. That's what I was, told. And then it's something that can never be taken away from you.
Yeah.
And I just thought, well,
something to leave to the kids.
Yeah.
And a good investment.
Yeah. So I thought, well, obviously that's what I want to do. And then I met you.
and what did I say?
And you were like, no. Like, that won't be what we're doing.
You see, here's the thing. See, loads of people, and we'll debate this. Pretend that you're old you.
Old me,
because there'll be people listening to this that are like, oh, he's talking rubbish. He didn't know what he's talking about. So you can debate on behalf of them.
Is it okay?
And we'll discuss it. So here's what I think. When you buy a property to live in, and I have this debate with people all the time. Like we've got friends who are looking to move to Dubai.
Yeah.
And they were saying, we're thinking of actually buying something. And I'm like, nah, don't buy something, rent something.
Yeah.
They're, but I heard Dubai was good to invest. Yeah, it is. But rent where you live and then buy investment properties. And people struggle to get their head around it. It doesn't seem to make any sense. Why would you want to be a landlord when you could just be a homeowner?
Yeah.
But here's the big problem with buying your own personal home and trying to claim it's an investment.
Yeah.
Okay? When you're buying a house to live in yourself for your own home, you're very emotional about it.
Oh, of course you are.
Like, for example, we were looking at houses to rent, and give me some of the criteria that you wanted.
For where we...
Well, when we're renting here.
Oh, like it needs to be by the water.
It needs to be by the water, right? So that rules out loads of properties. It needs to be overlooking the water.
Yeah,
what
that
else?
Was a pool.
Needed a pool. Needed to be done up to a certain spec.
Yeah.
Needed all this stuff that you wanted in order.
And then some people, it can be anything, can't it? Some people like, I must have a utility. Some people are like, I must have a garage, a double garage because I ride motorbikes. I must have a massive back garden, a small back garden. It can be anything, can't it? But it's personal to you, which is why it's emotional, because you are finding a house that you like.
It might be that it's near a certain school.
Yeah.
It might be whatever it is. But yeah, you're very emotional about where you want to live because you're going to live there. It makes sense to be emotional about it. Here's the issue. As soon as you throw emotions into an investment, it now is no longer an investment. Now it's an emotional decision based on where you want to live. So when you're buying property, what you should be doing, again, this is if you're seeing it as an investment. If you don't care, I'm guessing that you do care because you're watching the Property Investors Podcast.
Yeah.
But if you're buying it as an investment, what you should be doing is looking at the formulas. How good an investment actually is this. So I'll give you an example, right? So we're looking at buying some stuff here in Dubai at the moment. But are we looking in the places that we want to live? No. We're looking at places like in the growth corridors. We're looking like Dubai South, where there's long-term capital appreciation. We're looking at stuff on Dubai Islands, which you go at the moment, it's like a building site.
Yeah.
We're looking at buying off plan.
Expo City.
We're looking at Expo City. I don't want to live in Expo City.
No.
I don't want to live in an apartment in Expo City. But do I think that there's potential massive growth there? Yes. Same as in the UK. We're looking at places like Liverpool.
Yeah.
I don't personally want to live in Liverpool. I don't want to live in Birmingham. We bought a place in Lichfield that we rent a service car. I don't want to live there.
Yeah.
But the yields are much, much better. The capital appreciation is much, much better. And we can buy that. We can buy that knowing what the strategy is without being emotionally involved. And like, is it near the school that we want to be by? Is it by this? Is it by that? Is it by the other? And then you rent that. So what you do, because other people say, well, renting I'll let you argue it. What else?
I would be thinking, yeah, so you find a house you love and renting right near the school for your kids. And then a year later, right, out you go. The landlord wants it back. The landlord's kicking you out and you've got to move on, find the next house and the next house and the next house. Like, you've got no security, have you? You could just be kicked out at any moment. Like, isn't it nice to just know you've got a house you can live in? Like, a lot of people like the idea of having a dream home that they're going to live in for the next 25 years. And like you say, an inheritance passed down to the kids. Surely you don't get that with renting.
Well, you can still leave the inheritance passed down to the kids because you've got multiple. It's not like.
Yeah, you're not investing at all.
No, and if anything, that's better, right? Because if you've got, let's say, 3 kids and 1 house.
But what if you find an area you absolutely love, you want to live there for the next 20 years? And like when we first moved to Beaconsfield, we knew we loved the area. We were finding our feet and just quite where we wanted to live. And we got kicked out 4 times. And we're in our 5th house in Beaconsfield.
We got kicked out. So there is a point here. There is a point here. But we're looking at financial. What's the best financial decision?
Yeah.
Financially, what you're better off doing is buying investment properties, using the profit from those investment properties to pay for your rent.
Yeah.
That is the financial best thing to do.
Yeah.
If you're looking at it emotionally, there's pros and cons, right? So when you have a house, the first thing I would say is you often don't know whether you actually would like that house or not. Like, how many houses did we live in? I'll give you a good example. We moved to a place called Jordan's Way.
Yeah.
In Jordan's, just outside Beaconsfield. We rented it. We loved the house.
Yeah.
It was on acres of land. It was a massive house.
Like woods in the back, didn't it? Which was amazing.
It was awesome. We looked at it, we were like, wow, this house is amazing in the country. However, only once living there did we realise a couple of things.
It was seriously creepy.
You were very scared.
Very scared.
Having the woods at the back of the house.
No lights. So you looked out the window into pitch dark and it was always making sounds.
Every time I travelled away for work, she'd be like ringing me.
Yeah, I had to have people come and stay with me because I found it so creepy.
But not only that, but from my point of view, I like going for walks.
Yeah.
But because it was off a country lane, it felt like you were in the countryside, but you couldn't go for a walk.
No.
Because you'd walk out at the end of your road and it was a 60 mile an hour, whoosh, narrow lane. You're like, so we've moved to the countryside. I can't even go for a walk. You could go on the fields, but we're in England and it's muddy and horrible.
And we also know people that made, like us, we thought, oh yeah, we really want to live in the countryside. That would be a bit of us. But we rented. We also have friends that did the same thing and they were like, us too. We'd love to live somewhere like that on a big farmhouse, but bought and then paid the price for that because they were just like, they hated it and then hated it so much they ended up moving out and trying to rent out the farmhouse. And because obviously, you know, when you're selling, it can take a while, but they were desperate to sell it. And like, you can get stuck trying to sell properties if you want to move. So I do like the flexibility of renting. I know it's counter to the argument of
you got pros and cons.
I do like being able to move around.
The other thing is that you don't realise is we lived in lots of houses because we rented. Got the flexibility. The flexibility is amazing.
Yeah.
And you don't know. Again, we didn't know about that area. Then we were like, what we've realised is we like being close to a town, walking distance from like a town, but a little bit out of it.
Yeah.
So like, if you're like about half a mile away from like the town centre, so you're not right in it, you're a bit out of it, but you can walk in, you can walk to the coffee shop, you can do, that's kind of what we like. But we didn't know that without living in different houses. It might be that to you, having utilities is really important and you kind of learn this stuff. The other thing that's a big advantage is when you own your own home, you want it a certain way. You end up spending money. If it's an investment property, it doesn't matter. You just do it cheap and however, it's just investment.
But then I don't know if I agree with that because if you're renting the place you live, do you spend loads and loads of money doing it up?
No, you don't spend anything.
But then
you just rent it. If it's not in nice condition, you just don't go for that one. Like when we were looking at places in Dubai.
Yeah, but that's easy said when you can afford to rent really nice homes. But when we first started renting houses, I remember
No, the very first house that we ever rented was in really nice condition.
No, but okay, so then moving on to the second house we rented.
The only house we ever rented that wasn't in nice condition was because we rented it off your dad.
Okay. But there has been houses. No. So I think the fourth house we rented over in Cannock Wood, the decor was very dated. You know, it was quirky. It was an old post office.
I liked it. I don't agree.
But you're never going to do anything to, because the bathrooms are really dodgy. Our ensuite bathroom was awful, but you're never going to change it because you're never going to go and spend 15 grand on a property that, that you don't own. And talking on that point, what about the garden was a joke when we moved in and we had 2 little kids. We spent 6-7 grand having the garden done. No, we did. And asked the landlord, and then he absolutely penalised us for it.
We didn't spend 6-7. We spent about £1,000 getting the patio. Yes, we did. Yes, we did. It was about £1,000. All we did was got the patio done.
Okay, well, anyway.
6-7 grand on a patio.
Yeah, okay. So then it cost us £1,000 because we had to pay him £1,000 because he said he was going to have it taken up.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, but all right. We're talking little bits of money here now,
right?
That you're going to spend either way.
One of the pros of buying your own house is you can do what you want to it, can't you?
You can. There are some pros. But financially...
You said argue the pros and then you're all getting all upset about me arguing the pros.
I'm not getting upset.
You're don't say that.
No. You can say what you want. I just don't think that's like a massive pro.
It's not. But some people do like the idea of buying a house, being able to make it into what they want, which you wouldn't get.
No, but then you
rent.
You just have to accept then that it's an emotional decision. It's not an investment. If you're buying it because you want to be able to tinker with it and play with it, you could do that on a rental if you signed a long-term lease. The other thing I would say as well, by the way, about getting kicked out is I think that used to be a problem, but much less so now.
Yeah, I agree.
With the new renters' rights, they can't just kick you out.
For no reason, which is brilliant.
They can't just hike the rents up.
Yeah.
They can't do that anymore. So I actually think that has kind of gone.
Yeah, I agree. I think... we kind of suffered with that a little bit, unfortunately, getting kicked out because the landlords said they were coming back and things.
Although, to be fair, they can still do that.
True.
They can still move back. It's still a bit of a risk, but then you're talking not about investing now. Again, it's kind of the hassle of moving versus the flexibility of being able to move whenever you want.
Yeah.
And there's pros and cons to both. But from an investment point of view, from a financial point of view, you're always better off buying, for example, so we bought a property in Lichfield and we rent it out of service accommodation.
Yeah.
And that makes us a 50% return on investment.
Yeah.
So we got all our money back within 2 years of renting that property. That is now just giving us cash flow that goes towards paying for our rent.
Yeah. Do you know one downside of owning? There's always something. It's like as you fix the gate, now the windows need doing. So how much is that going to be? I'm not even going to say because it's a bit sickening. And you think, oh my goodness, wouldn't it just be nice to call the landlord and go, sorry, the window's leaking?
On investment properties, you can do it at a much lower spec.
But also, you're getting paid for your investment properties.
So if you were going to buy a £300,000 house, and you got it on interest only, you'd be looking at a mortgage payment, and you just wouldn't even be paying off your mortgage, right? It's just covering the interest of about £1,125 per month.
Okay.
According to ChatGPT.
Yeah.
So what would the rent be on what would the rent be on same house? I reckon it's going to be about the same.
Yeah.
I reckon it's going to be about the same. So the rental is going to be about 1.5.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're looking at about 1,200 interest only mortgage, 1,500 on the rent. But the problem is you'd have to put down, if you bought that house for yourself, you'd have to put down a deposit. You're tying up a load of money.
Yeah.
And you're paying the interest anyway. So people say, the rent's dead money. It's pretty similar.
Yeah.
The rent versus the interest.
Yeah, because that's a big thing for someone who argues that you should buy. They say, yeah, but you literally just throw money at property you don't even own.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest arguments, isn't it? You just throw money down the drain where you could be buying off a property. But like you say, if you're doing interest only.
But even if you're like, repaying it, you've still got the interest, right? So either way, the rent's dead money, but the interest is dead money. Ultimately, in order for you to live in a house, it's going to cost you dead money.
Yeah.
So unless you're going to buy it for cash, but if you buy it for cash, then you've got opportunity loss because now that's a load of money that you could have invested. That's just like 300 grand cash, bang up front. Yeah, now you don't pay any rent or any mortgage, but you could be earning a load of money from that 300 grand.
Yeah.
So what I think you'd be better off doing, if you had, say, 50 grand, for example, rather than using that to buy a house to live in, buy like 2 or 3 properties that are really high yielding, rent them as service accommodation, rent them as HMOs, and then use that money that's coming in. Now you've got 3 assets going up in value, or 2 assets, or whatever it is, rather than 1 more expensive asset.
Yeah.
Or do like a buy, refurbish, refinance, pull your money out. I just think you have to, if you're going to buy property, you just got to be thinking of it as it's all about an investment.
Well, I was going to ask you this though. What would be your best advice to making sure you're not using your emotions? Because we have to rein ourselves in, don't we? Because I feel like or not just about buying, because we're not buying another property for us to live in, but we get carried away when we're looking. We have to rein ourselves back in, don't we? So we started Expo City. Then we started thinking, well, maybe long term, would Sienna and Emily like to live in here? Or then we started looking somewhere else. And then we were like, but if we go further afield, you could get that. Maybe it's type as a holiday home. Oh,
okay,
yeah. And you do.
I'll tell you what I think.
And then you think, no, stop it now, because now we're going to get emotionally.
I think when you try and kill 2 birds with 1 stone, that's a red flag. So if you're buying an investment property and then you start thinking, this is actually quite close to where my son goes to university, I could stop. Red flag. It doesn't mean it's always bad, but I think if you're trying to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, red flag. The only thing you should be looking at is return on investment. Okay, that is it. And return on investment is very, very simple. Just say calculate it. How much money am I going to need to put into this project? How much money am I going to need? So this is your down payment. So this will be your deposit. This will be your legal fees. This will be your stamp duty. This will be your refurb. Whatever, all the money that you need to put in. Then you need to look at how much money in the first year is this project going to give me back? How much money am I going to get back? And then let's say you're going to put down 100 grand and it's going to give you back 20 grand. That is a 20% because the money back is 20% of the money you put in. That's a 20% return on investment.
Yep.
That is it. That is the only thing you look at. When we say formulas over feelings, it's just return on investment. The yield doesn't matter. Even the capital appreciation, you can try and buy for capital appreciation. You can think like what we're doing in Dubai. It's like, I think this will be a growth area. But at the end of the day, it's kind of a bit speculative because you don't know. Yeah. Like we can try and guess. Like I think right now London's a really good area for capital appreciation. But I don't know that for sure because I've not got a crystal ball. I've not, I can't unfortunately look in the future and see what are the hot spots. Yeah. So you can guess that a little bit. But I would take that as I always take capital appreciation as bonus. Yeah. Then you make all your decisions based on your return on investment. The only time I think you should buy your own home is one of 2 reasons. There's 2 reasons you can buy your own home. Number 1, what we did, you realise that it isn't a
good investment.
It's not a good investment.
Want to do it anyway.
I just want it. It's like buying a private jet is never a good investment. No. Right? It's really expensive.
Yachts.
Yeah. But if you're rich enough that you don't care. Yeah. And you're just like, but I just want to do it. Going on holiday is not a good investment. No. I'm not saying everything in life has to be ROI. Yeah. If you just love owning your own home and it makes you feel really happy then great.
And you've got the money to do it.
Don't try and kid yourself it's a good investment. Yeah. Right. That's the first reason. The second reason is that you should buy your own home is if you're doing it because of the ROI. Yeah. Okay. So And because quite often it's cheaper to buy your own home versus an investment property in terms of you get tax breaks, right? So stamp duty for your own home is 5% cheaper than stamp duty for an investment property.
Yep.
So the low rate, I think it's the first 125 grand for your own home is 0 stamp duty. For an investment property, you've got to add 5, so it's 5%.
Yeah.
Then for your own home, it then goes to 2%. Investment, 7%. And so on and so forth, all the way up to 12 and 17% for a buy-to-let. So if you're like, this house right here, I think this would be a great BRR deal. I'm going to buy it to live in it.
Yeah.
For 2 reasons. Number 1, to save money on stamp duty.
Yeah.
Number 2, because it means I can get a residential mortgage because I'm going to live in the property. And a residential mortgage means I can put down 10%. So my money down is much, much less. Number 3, if you live in your own home, if you then flip it, so if you then sell it, you don't pay capital gains tax.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to save tax. So every which way, because it's my own home, I'm saving on tax. Like I know people.
I think it's a great strategy that I think if it wasn't for having kids, I would definitely be doing that. I feel like I wouldn't be able to cope living in an absolute, because obviously you have to live in a real mess and actually do these properties up. With young kids, I don't think it's an option. But if we didn't, I'd be well doing this. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's a great. I know young couples that have done it and have made serious money off doing it.
Yeah. So effectively, you are buying your own home, and you are living there, so it is your own home. But you're not. It's not an emotional decision. You're buying by refurbished refinances,
and most of the time they then flip them, and then go and do another one.
Pay no tax, do it again.
But then what they do, I know people. Then from the money they made, they buy a better property.
So that's the only scenario that I would say buy it. So buy it as actual buy your own home would be when you're using that as part of the formulas.
Yeah.
To get tax breaks, to get cheaper stamp duty,
but
to
not
get no capital gains tax at the end.
Because it could be a retirement home at some point, a house to retire in, or because it's near your friends thinking of moving around the corner.
Yeah.
Because it just gets complicated.
The only problem with that, obviously, is that if you're just buying one, is if you do keep selling it, is you're not actually owning stuff. So the other thing that you could do is you could refinance it.
Yeah.
But if you then keep it and start buying second properties, you do lose some of the tax benefits. But you want to, for me, while I think flipping is great, I don't get super excited about flipping. Because what I'm more excited about is building a portfolio.
Yeah, because you're right. If you only do that and like you actually don't own any property, because you do want to be owning some property, just
you
not
want to
the
make
house
some
you live in.
long-term capital appreciation.
Yeah.
That's where you're going to get really rich in property. It isn't the rents,
No.
right? Even if you've got good units that are making like $1,000 a month, you're not going to get really rich off the rents unless you've got like absolutely loads of properties. Where you're going to get rich is off if you've got, let's say, 5 or 6 properties that are making you $1,000 a month each.
Yeah.
So making 5 or 6 grand a month, great. That's decent, fine. But when they all double in value, over a 10-year period, that's where you're going to make the money really. So for me, flipping is fine, but I'd rather build a portfolio and then let them appreciate over time in the background while you're asleep doing nothing. They're making you money. And on that bombshell, we're going to leave it. My name's Russell Leeds.
Hello, I'm Anna Leeds.
We'll see you next week.